Welcome to a very important Stalker 2 guide, my friends. Now that I've got over 25 hours in the game and I've completed most of the main quests, I feel knowledgeable enough to bring you a list of all of the most important things that I wish that I knew before starting out. This is a tough-ass game and you will die a lot. And there's nothing worse than losing over half an hour of progress because of a silly mistake that you made that could have easily been avoided. So, without further ado, I'm Dom, your guide for today. You're watching Dom's Roundtable, and let's jump straight into tip number 1. Firstly, and this is going to be hard for a lot of you to hear, myself included, but hoarding loot can easily get you killed in the zone. You cannot be doing it. You move tremendously slower when you are carrying a lot, and your stamina regeneration is severely hindered. What's worse is if you're not careful and you become overloaded, you literally cannot move. And this is guaranteed instant death if enemies are nearby. So keep an eye on your inventory and discard anything unnecessary. I know it hurts to throw away all that extra ammo and food when it could be sold in town, but if you are super far away from a town, it's going to take you a lifetime to drag it all back just for a few extra coupons, and you're leaving yourself very exposed to a completely avoidable death. Realistically, to give you a few guiding principles, you only need around 150 to 200 bullets for your automatic weapons like assault rifles, so say 100 regular and 100 armor piercing, and 50 to 80 for your single shot weapons like your pistol. And you'll only have 3 active weapons with you at any time, your 2 primaries and your secondary. And it's the same with food and healing items, try not to hoard them. It got to the point where I had like 50 medkits and bandages, and they were like half of my inventory weight. I had something stupid like 20 kilos of medkits, and nobody needs that many, it's just ridiculous. So if you're not near a town, throw half of that stack away, have around 20 max for your medkits, and somewhere between 10 to 15 for most other key items like food and bandages. Tip number 2 is all about artifacts. It won't be long before you get your hands on your first artifact, and there are plenty of them throughout the game. But don't pay too much attention to them early game for a few different reasons, and I'll summarize them all now in this tip. So firstly, the early game artifacts aren't that great. They'll just make you a tiny bit more resistant to one element or another, but they also actively build up your radiation and you'll start to get radiation poisoning. And usually this debuff you get is far worse than the positive you're gaining from the artifact. So until you get used to swapping them in and out depending on the situation, and you have reliable ways to offset the radiation poisoning, you are better off probably just selling the really basic ones you get early game, because they give you a decent amount of coupons. And that constant drain on your HP really is not worth the benefit in almost every situation in the first 20 or so hours of the game. And even though these artifacts are unique and very important, don't worry about selling the minor ones. It will be obvious when you start to collect the super duper artifacts, because they are visually very different. But I won't go into the details of the super powerful artifacts because I don't want to ruin the game for you. But trust me, it will be obvious. You'll know which ones you probably shouldn't be selling because they start to get really good. Next up, talking about managing your inventory space. If you didn't know, you cannot sell weapons that are broken. So as you are going around doing your looting, if you come across a bunch of broken weapons clogging up your inventory space and you're not planning on repairing them up for your own personal use, just throw them away. You will get special weapons with special names, and if you find these broken, it's still worth bringing them back with you and comparing their stats against your other weapons, just in case they happen to be super powerful. But even then, it can cost tens of thousands to fully repair a weapon. So usually you are just best throwing broken weapons away because they can't be sold and they are a money sink. However, that leads me on perfectly to the next tip, and that's to make sure that you unload all weapons you pick up. You can do this by hovering over the weapon on the ground and holding down the interact key. that will just unload the weapon and pick up the ammo, not the weapon itself. Or you can go into your inventory. Inventory? Which one? What is one American and one UK? Inventory? I don't know which one I'd say. But as I say, if you have picked up a broken weapon and you've gone into your inventory to throw it away, just hover over it and you'll see which button you need to press to unload it first. It's G on the keyboard. I don't know what it is on a controller, apologies. But if you just hover over it, it will tell you. Tip number 5 is to complete the main quest up to and including the quest called A Needle in a Haystack before doing too many side activities. You start with very, very bad gear, and you will make the game unnecessarily hard for yourself if you're trying to clear all the side content in the first area before doing much of the main quest. After completing A Needle in a Haystack, this is when you will have looted some pretty decent weapons and some new armor from the main quest line, and now all of the side content is going to be that much easier. Also, if you did happen to pre-order this game and or you got any of the deluxe or ultimate editions, this is also the point in the game where you will unlock a new quest to go and find all of your new DLC and pre-order equipment. It is a long quest line and you do have to go and find it all, but it's worth noting if you didn't know that you have to complete that main quest first, A Needle in a Haystack. And even for those of you that didn't pre-order and those of you that didn't buy any of the super duper versions, don't worry, because the weapons and the equipment that the people who did get is no better than stuff that you can get. It's just they get it like an hour or two earlier and maybe with a little bit of a cooler reskin, but it's definitely not pay to win. And by the end game, all of this stuff becomes irrelevant and we're all going to be using the same super powerful weapons and armor that didn't come from our pre-order bonuses and our deluxe editions. And on that topic, actually, stay tuned to this channel because I will be bringing out another video soon with the best weapon in each bullet category, because as is probably obvious from many different FPS and third-person shooters, you don't really want to be running with multiple weapons that all share the same ammo type. So I've maxed out all available weapons up to the midpoint in the game and compared all of their stats so I can share with you the best weapon in each ammo type category, so that you're not wasting your coupons modding other weapons that you will want to bin off in just a few hours time. So stay tuned, that video will be coming out very soon as well to help you out in that aspect. Tip number 6 is to save often. Exactly as I said right at the start of the video, there is nothing worse than losing half an hour of progress because the last autosave isn't for bloody ages. So even if you are just using the quick save function, do that every so often. Again, on the keyboard, it's F5, or better yet, just go into the menu and create some save states, because you never know when you're going to go down a rabbit hole and need to back up an hour, and it's good to have them saves there just in case. I'm not advising save scumming. In fact, I will address that on the last tip in the video. But I am advising saving the game semi-frequently, so when you do inevitably die, you don't lose tons and tons of progress. For the next tip, as with any good realistic survival game, you need to be very careful when using things like the map or your quest journal or reading through notes, as the game does not pause while you are doing this. I personally love that this is a thing. Being able to pull up your inventory or your journal willy-nilly does not sit right with me. I love that they do this. You can still pause with the actual menu, which again, thank God, because sometimes life gets in the way. It's a single player game. There's no reason it shouldn't have a pause, but be careful when plotting your next destination on the map or going back through the journal to find that code that you didn't write down earlier. Make sure there's no enemies around and make sure you're in a safe space. Many crates and boxes around the world are smashable. Some of them are more obvious than others and will literally have medicine and ammo symbols on them. And if you shoot or slash at these boxes with your knife, 99% of the time there will be loot inside. But pretty much every single smashable box has a chance to contain some loot. And you can slash away with your knife endlessly, so you may as well slash at any small wooden box you see, just in case there's some extra loot in there, because you could always do with an extra medkit or energy drink. Another great tip to help you avoid many unnecessary deaths is to not mindlessly sprint around everywhere. Especially until you unlock fast travel, you will be running around a lot, sometimes up to 1 kilometer at a time, and it's in real time. It can take a couple of minutes. But please try not to get impatient and sprint everywhere, because it's so easy, despite the audio warning, to accidentally run into an anomaly and lose half your health bar or more if you're playing on higher difficulties, and it's just not worth wasting all of them already limited resources. Also, the more noise you cause, the more monsters and other enemies will hear you. If you didn't know, even your stomach growling can attract monsters, so if you're sprinting across the zone, you will draw lots of unwanted attention. So be patient, be cautious, it will pay off. And if you've got a long run, maybe just stick Netflix on in the background. This tip coincides with my weapon guide that I'll be coming out with. Make sure you do mod your weapons. It's pretty cheap and it can make them tremendously powerful. Especially the upgrades that increase their wear and tear is fantastic, because you'll be needing to repair them less frequently, and eventually this upgrade will quite literally pay itself off. So it's more of an investment than anything else. It is a free upgrade essentially over time. But yeah, no matter what I or anyone else tells you is the best weapon, if you find your new favorite weapon, go ahead and mod it, go ahead and upgrade it. Everyone plays a little differently, and even if you do watch my next video in a couple of days and you find that your favorite weapon isn't the most optimal, doesn't mean it's not still incredible. So go ahead and mod your favorite weapon. You will find plenty of coupons to waste at least a few, because it will really help you through the early game if at least one of your weapons is pretty much maxed out. However, talking of modding, the next tip is to not mod your armor. Definitely hold off on modding your armor. It is ridiculously expensive in comparison to weapons. As an example, you can pretty much fully mod out a weapon for about 10,000 coupons, yet one single armor mod can cost that much, if not more. It is honestly crazy expensive, and you will get some really good alternative options from around the 3rd area in the main campaign. So when you get to the end of the 2nd, start of the 3rd area, that's when you really want to make sure you're doing all the side content, exploring all the caches, and you will find some armor that is just straight off the bat so much better than yours without any mods, saving yourself potentially 50,000 coupons. And then, if you want, when you find this really, really good armor, now you can mod it, and you are going to be so tanky, it is ridiculous. Tip number 12, don't try and swim. It's instant death. You cannot swim. I don't know why. You can't even paddle across shallows. You just can't swim. You can wade through kind of deep water. And helpfully, the game doesn't let you go from wading through deep water to just instantly dying. Thank God it does block you. It does stop you from going any further. But should you be walking along anywhere precariously and fall off into the water, that is instant death. So always be super careful around water unless you're already in it. If you're already in a shallow and you try and walk too far, the game is generous, the game will help you, the game will stop you. But if you fall into the water, it doesn't give you that same comfort blanket. You will die and you will lose lots and lots of progress. So please don't try and go swimming in the zone. It's not worth the risk. The next tip is a very simple one, but it can definitely stop you from pissing off a whole entire colony of people. When you are nearing civilization, as you hover over people, your aiming reticle will turn green if they are friendly. This is your key to put your weapon away. On the keyboard, this keybind initially is H. Press H on your keyboard, you will put your weapons away. and you will stop people thinking you are hostile. It's very infrequently that they would open fire immediately, but you are going to piss them off. And if there are multiple occurrences, this can hurt your reputation. So make sure that when you come to colonies and civilization, you put your weapons away. This final tip is completely personal opinion, so you can absolutely feel free to take it or leave it. You, of course, play how you want to play. I am a huge advocate for playing the way you want to play, the way that you find the most fun. What I would say, though, is this is a game that will make you feel like you fucked up so many times. And I feel like it's part of the fun to just roll with it. And there are so many times you'll feel you may have made the wrong decision or things didn't go quite how you thought they would. And I say just roll with it. It's part of the fun. So just let it be. Enjoy your decisions. Enjoy your gut feeling. Don't try and min-max every single bit of loot and every single play absolutely perfectly by save scumming every single dialogue option. You don't need to. Play how you think you want to play. Do what your gut says. Do what your heart says. And I personally think you're going to have the most fun. And the final tip is twofold. Firstly, please note you get nothing from defeating almost every single monster in the game. No loot, no ammo, no food, no resources. You get absolutely nothing. It is a complete waste of resources fighting monsters. So, if you don't need to fight them, don't. It is a hardcore survival game after all. Resources are supposed to be scarce and fights are supposed to be tough. So again, kind of harkening back to the last point, if you do waste an absolute load of ammo defeating a wave of monsters and then think, actually, I didn't really need to fight them. If you want to, you can reload the save and you can just run on by. But personally, I say live with your decision and learn from this encounter. Finally, if you want more incredible Stalker 2 guides and other gaming guides to suit all your needs, subscribe to Dom's Roundtable. And with that, all I have left to say, my friends, is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.